Welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're going back in the day with an Upper Hutt Tigers legend. He also had a stint over in the UK for Widnes and a few other clubs we're going to talk about. It's the one and only Ben Leah. How are you, bro?
Good, thanks, DC. It's nice to finally meet you, not maybe not in person, but see your face and actually talk to you. Yeah, how you been, brother?
Oh, mate, fantastic. So good to meet you. So likewise, finally got this podcast over the line. We've been sort of darting around it for a while now, but we finally got there. And I thought I'd wear this beautiful Roosters jersey, even though I call myself a Roosters fan, but I know you're a massive fan. And so my first question is, where did your affinity with the Roosters come from, man? Because I know you're very proud and staunch about it.
Yeah, I was a bit of a late bloomer, Dave? Like even playing league, but supporting the Roosters because like growing up as a kid in Auckland in South Auckland, I used to buy the Rugby League week, and then it was like you get that poster, and it was like Peter Sterling on my wall, Mal Meninga, the King, and like I didn't really have NRL team. Probably wasn't until one of the boys like Sid Edu started playing for the Warriors, and then we were like, oh, I think I'm going to be a Warriors supporter. And then when they cut him, I was like, nah, I don't want to be a Warriors supporter anymore. and
You
then
dodged the bullet there.
and then I came towards the end of my league career. I was probably around like 29, 30, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll try another sport. So I started playing gridiron. So yeah, I was a big TB12 supporter, and like I supported the Patriots, and then
Yep.
started watching NRL again, and it was like the blue, red, and white, and then yeah, I became a Rooster supporter probably late '90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So a
Good.
good
Good.
quarter of a century
Yeah, mate,
and
they had a lot
counting.
of success through that time, so you'd be very happy. Yeah,
A lot of
man.
success and a lot of pain and suffering, Dave. Especially those early 2000s when Sticky was a coach, and we
Yep,
went
yep.
on that. I think it was like, I mean, you know, it was. I think it was like three or four grand finals in a row, and like to come away with one was like,
Yeah,
geez, we could have won three.
I
Yeah,
know,
could have
mate.
been
You lost
more.
to the Broncos, Bulldogs, and
Yeah,
Panthers. Yeah, off the top of the
yeah,
head.
yeah. Yeah.
All good. So, what are you up to these days, man? What's Ben Lear up to? What are you doing sort of post footy?
Post footy, got into recruitment, so just started a new gig with enterprise recruitment. Been there for like 3 months, so I look after construction infrastructure.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing, and then lifestyle block. I got a bit of a farm, so a couple of cats, keep the mice away. Then we've got chickens, sheep, and then it's getting close to spring, so there's a few lambs, two Highlanders there, and pet magpie, yeah, a bit of a farmer, and then still chair at the club up at Tigers. So it's
Yep.
8 years next year. Jeez, where the years gone? Just flown past.
It just strolled by, mate. Oh, that's awesome, bro. So let's rewind the clock. Where did you grow up? Can you tell us a bit about your upbringing, like where you went to school and what was life generally like for you as a young fella growing up?
So we grew up in Otara, South Auckland. Um, Dad was working, I think, might have been Ford. Mum was had a few cleaning gigs. So I went to East Tamaki Primary in South Auckland. Very proud primary school. We had quite a few elite athletes come from there, actually, DC. Just throw it out there. Tawari Nico, Eric Rush, Peter
Not bad.
Alatini. Peter Alatini, you want to cover all the codes.
Yep.
So that's where I grew up, and then went to Papatoetoe Intermediate, Otahu College, and then went up in Samoa for a couple of years, and then yeah, moved to Wellington, and yeah,
Right.
in Wellington now.
Right. So where did the love for rugby league come from? Was it something you always played from a young age and watched, or was it something that came along a little bit later?
To be honest with you, I think my first league game was probably at East Tamaki, like standard four, and they just chucked us in this local comp. I mean, back in those days, they was like the rugby team was the cricket team, the hockey team, football team, the basketball team, the volleyball team, and they said, "Oh, we don't have a league team," so we are like, "Oh, let's go have a game of league," and I think we finished second.
Not bad.
Yeah, so and then didn't play any league after that, and then got into a bit of athletics. And Dad was rugby crazy, so it was like union, and then didn't start playing league again until like 17. So we
Okay.
came over from Samoa for a couple of years, and then we moved to Upper Hutt.
Yep.
Went to Heartbreak College. Yeah, humbling back in those days because we used to get spanked every week. I think the closest game was like 50-4, I think it
Oh
was.
my God.
So it was pretty tough. And I was thinking to myself, man, is there another sport that I can play, like volleyball or basketball? But I was pretty shit out. I was shit house at those. I was going, man, is there anything else? And then we moved from Lane Street to Timberley. So,
Okay.
and that's where I met all my best friends. I mean, my best friend was next door neighbor, friends across the road, friends in the next street from there. And then they were like, oh, bro, you should come play league. And then started training with the Upper Hutt under 17s. And then, this is when, like, Sid was, like up and coming. I was like, man, who's that guy training in the dark?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Sid Edu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Legend. Oh my God.
and then first game, 17, be honest with you, DC, because like rugby, I was playing on the wing.
Yeah.
And like athletics before that, and athletics, it's because it's an individual sport. You can't share the pain with anyone else. You're
No.
just out there
So
sweating it
you.
out, spewing your ring up with your coach. And then rugby is like, just got sick of getting kicked in the ass every week. And then first game of league, played on the wing. I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh, that was first game, and then never looked back.
So you said you fell in love with it. What was it? What was it about league that made you fall in love with it?
I think it was just the openness of it. Like, they said, oh, you can go. I was thinking, man, what do I do? Like, where do I stand on defense? And they said, oh, bro, all you have to do is catch the ball, run real fast, and put the ball over the try line. I was like, yeah, sounds easy enough. And then, yeah, just started scoring a few tries. I was like, oh, I quite enjoy this. But then it was
Yeah.
pretty tough at the time because it was around like I was 18, 19, and then I was qualifying for the Commonwealth Games, and then like Rugby League had come into my life.
Yeah.
Rugby union was already gone. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And then, mum and dad are like, it's your decision. But I knew my dad wanted me to go to so this was the 1990 Commonwealth Games. And
Yeah.
then I just said, nah, I want to play league. That's how much I loved it. I was going, oh, yeah, I don't want to play
Right.
any other sports. And then, yeah, hooked.
Crazy. So would you say that rugby league came more naturally, like with the openness of the game? Did you love that contact? Because rugby's not soft, but in league, like you hit the ball up. It's a tough sport.
Definitely wasn't the contact. I was a winger, Dave. All
Yeah.
I do was I was like a glory boy, glory hunter. All I had to do was like score tries. That's all I had to do. And just
Don't I love it, mate?
hold the ball and don't go out. Otherwise you just get cursed by your centers. So yeah, just run fast, hold the ball and score tries. It's pretty like maybe make about 1 or 2 tackles a game.
That's it. Geez,
If
even I could
that.
do that.
And I was thinking, like playing on the wing was pretty cool, but then the hammy injuries started kicking in, so I was like moving like wing, centre, second row.
Yeah.
Oh shucks, I'm in the front row.
Oh
Oh
no.
no, the speed's gone.
That's not great. So you mentioned you moved back to Samoa for a couple of years during those younger days. Did you play league over in Samoa, and what was the experience like moving back to the islands?
Absolutely not. They hated rugby league over there. Like
Really?
union is like a religion. Yeah,
Okay.
you like go into a household to be like a photo of Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
and then a photo of like whoever your favorite Manu Samoa player was. And then you throw like an Elvis picture and Bruce Lee. So unions like I never played league. Like we're over there probably like a couple of years. Didn't have one league game over there. It was like it was just rugby, athletics, and soccer. Yeah, no
Okay.
league over there. Yeah, it wasn't
No.
until we moved to Wellington. It was like, yep, full steam ahead with rugby league.
Yeah. So when you did convert to rugby league, did you have any hurdles from your school or, from making the switch to union, from union to league? Because, it was a pretty dicey time back then, the old league and union standoff.
But I'll tell you what, Dave, our first 15 coach and the vice principal at Heartbreak, they weren't very happy that I'd gone to league.
Yeah,
Because,
I had
like,
a feeling.
when the scores are like 50-4, those 4
Yeah.
points were mine. just one try. And then I just said to him, I just said, "Oh, coach," and then the vice principal, and just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I can't handle this punishment every week." I was like,
Yeah,
"Maybe we need to drop down a division, like, or we need some more players." I
yeah,
said, "Nah, sorry," and then I got suspended from college for 2 weeks.
far out.
Crazy,
For jumping ship, that's
yeah.
crazy,
And then that
crazy.
was two, and I was going, "Oh yeah, I made the right choice." So that was just 2 weeks of trying to learn the game because I knew
Yeah.
nothing about rugby league.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy. So you also mentioned you were a handy sprinter all back in the day. So with all that incorporated with your league, like you said you picked up some records, during your sprinting days. And do you think that helped you become a better league player? And just how important was that to you? And how hard was it, to pick, between your two sports?
I think speed is just one of those things that you can't coach. You've
Yeah.
either got it or you don't. Yeah, and like, yeah, I had a bit of speed back in the day. So like, athletic wise, like my favorite, like the glory event, the star event was the 100 meters. But
Yeah.
because of my weight at the time, because I was probably one of the heaviest sprinters, so I
Okay.
was probably around the 95 to 98 mark
Okay.
kgs. So 200 meters was my natural race because it always took me a bit of time to build up my speed. So
Right.
my technique was for the first 100 and the two, I'd go like 75, 80%. And
Right.
then as soon as I'd hit the bend and I'm coming to the straight, I'm going like 85, 90, and then I should be hitting my straps around 50 meters out. But
Far out.
definitely with playing league, like if I got the ball in the clear, yeah,
See ya.
there wouldn't be many people that could catch me. And like playing it out under 19s, I think I was gunning for the rec. I think Morven's got, because you're interviewing Morven after this, hey Dave,
I am
hey?
indeed. I am. Yes.
So I think Morv had the under 19s record at Upper Hutt. I think it was 9 or 10 tries. And
Okay.
then I was coming up to 5, 6, and then I was up to 7. I was going, oh, I was thinking to myself straight away, like one of those, I should have just carried on playing. I was thinking, man, I'm going to break Morv's record. And then tries 8 and 9, all I had to do was catch the ball and put it down. Nah. And then I think one of the boys' dads actually, this is back in the days of like video cameras. So
Yeah.
Jason Edwards' dad, Len, so Morven's old man, he videoed the game, and then I got a copy of the tape, and then I put it onto DVD, and I've
Yeah.
actually still got it. So it's against the Tider B. I know some of the guys in there. So it was so Tider had two under 19 teams. So it was Tider A and Tider B. So I
Okay.
think when we played Tider B, it was probably like 100 and something to 8. I think the score
Oh
was,
my.
and I think I scored up to 8 tries. Yeah, I think no 7. Yeah. So it should have been like 8 or 9, but yeah, I think Morv still got that record. And then
Oh no.
even when I transitioned into back rower and prop, I always enjoyed getting over the try line. Like
Yeah.
even when I played a bit of footy in Woolgoolga, I think I was the highest try scorer. I was a prop. I was playing number 8.
Oh mate, that's fantastic. Oh mate, we all know front rowers love a meat pie, but if you've got speed and size, that's a pretty hot commodity, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, like you said, you went to Upper Hutt and you made the Wellington 17 side alongside, you said, Sid Eru, Stephen Kearney. What's it like making those rep sides at a young age? When you look back at the caliber of guys you came through with, how amazing was that?
It was pretty cool back then, Dave. I think that was one of those other things that was appealing to me for rugby league was the camaraderie with like lifelong friends now. And like you barely knew those guys back in those days, but even from like 17, 18 to 19, I always knew like when you saw Sid and Steve,
Yeah.
they just stood out above everyone else because they
Yeah.
always like it was the things that we didn't do. They did the extras.
Yeah.
So Sid would get there before training. He'd be doing sprints with the this crazy, this crazy guy, and then Mox would be everyone's in the change rooms and he's out there doing extras
Yeah.
and like even like under 19s when we made the Wellington under 19s, Mox is one of those guys. He was ahead of his time when it came to like he used to write everything down. So he had a
Okay.
whole diary and then have his top 10 goals for that year. And then, because I was a bit of a prankster back in the days, so I broke into Mooks's room and I actually stole his diary. And then I said, boys, this is before cell phones, Dave. So, like, you're ringing everyone in the landline. I go, boys, we're meeting in Rangi's room. I've got Mooks's diary. Yeah. So we go to the bottle store, get a few drinks, and then I'm like, proud, like, we're all laughing, like, goal number 1. I'm actually reading it out to the boys. Goal number 1 to make the Upper Hutt Tigers premiers cross. Because I think because me and Sid played for the Prems, I think Mooks got on the bench.
Okay.
But I don't think he cracked the Prems. It wasn't until him and I went to Randwick. And then, but you always knew from those ages, these two were going to go far. And then just the careers that those two had. I mean, with Sid, it was just a pity with his injuries. But when you saw him train back in those days, they were like, for example, like college. We all like because we all lived within walking distance, and then we all go catch up, and then go to the bottle store. We're like, and then we always meet up at Sid's. We're like at Gail's place. Like, where's Sid? Oh, he's at Upper Hutt College doing 400s. I was like, 400s? What's wrong with that guy? So, and then, we're all changed, getting ready to go clubbing. Yeah. So we walk down to Upper Hutt College. Sure enough, he's there doing 400s. So he comes over to us. He goes, oh, bro, this is my 6th one. I'll do 4 more, have a shower, then we'll go out. I was going, man, this guy's crazy.
Commitment, mate. Commitment. Oh, good stuff. Oh, mate. So you played against Canterbury in the final during your time in the Wellington, and you scored a try, but you unfortunately went down. What's it like playing a grand final, when you're coming through, especially knowing you'd chosen league over union? You're starting to sort of make some waves in the early start of your career.
Tell you what, Dave, those early grand finals are really painful to talk about, eh?
Sorry to bring it up.
Under 17s, we had a ripper of a team, eh? Under 17s, we lost against St George in the grand final. Under 19s again. I mean, when you looked at our team, when you got Mooks is in there, Sid was like, man, how did we lose? So we lost against Wainui in the grand final. And Wainui actually went that season undefeated. So when you looked at the Wainui lineup, you had like Earl Va'a, halfback standoff. Tana could play anywhere. We're talking about Tana Umaga. Tana could play wing, centre, fullback, back row, anywhere. And then you had like...
He was a junior Kiwi, wasn't he?
JK, and like Earl had like 3 or 4 brothers.
Yeah.
And then you had, who else is in their team? Just too good. And then Prems... I think I was suspended for the 90 grand final that we won. Okay. Yeah, right. Should have played that. And then 91, when Mooks and I went to Randwick, we played Wainui in the grand final, and unfortunately went down in that one.
Went down again.
But 93 won a grand final with Upper Hutt, and then again I wasn't even there. I was in Oz playing league, trying to crack the Winfield Cup.
Oh, mate. Right, 1990. You actually got a scholarship from the USA for athletics, baseball and football, and you also play softball, and you're holding records for home runs as well. So how did all that come about, and how massive of a decision was this for you? A bit of a crossroad. Which direction do you go? How did you decide?
So this is me still in my athletic days, and I've just come to the conclusion, I'm not a 100-meter guy, 200 meters. So I did 100, 200, I did the long jump, and it was the relay. Okay. And then, like, because we'd moved, so this is where we'd moved from Timberley down to Trentham. So Sid was just down the road, all the boys around there. So I used to train at Upper Hutt College. And then there was the New Zealand long jump and triple jump coach was at the field. And then he just came over and says, oh, who's your coach? And then I said, oh, see that grumpy looking fella over there, my dad? Yeah, that's my coach. And he goes, he's not even watching you sprint. I went, I know. And then he said, oh, do you have a coach? And I went, no, that's him. He goes, oh, do you mind if I give you a few pointers? Okay. So then I just called Dad over and I said, oh, Dad, this guy wants to have a chat here. And then he became my sprint coach.
Yeah. Just like that.
And then, he pretty much just said, oh, Ben, I don't think the 100's for you. 200 for you. And then he goes, oh, you'd actually want to consider getting into the decathlon as well. And because
Okay.
I was shit scared of the pole vault, I couldn't do that. I was like, no way I could do that. And the fact there was a 1,500 meters, I went, no thanks. I'll just stick to the 200. And I like the long jump. Yeah, that wasn't bad. And then he, he he had another athlete that he was coaching. I'd forgotten her name. Like she was the New Zealand long jump, triple jump champ. And then he took her over to the US to visit a few of the colleges. And then he took over like a few of my times for the 100, 200, the
Yeah.
long jump. And then one of the colleges said, oh, did you say he plays softball as well? And because I thought I was a first baseman, but nah, I got demoted to outfield. And because of my speed, if it was a high ball, I'll chase it till I catch it. And then
Okay.
I like batting as well.
Yeah.
So had a few home runs, but I think I had a record in the Hutt Valley for like runners batted in, so RBIs. And then he just came back and man, I'm sure he said Auburn. I know it started with an A. I hope it wasn't Auburn because they could have been a game changer, Dave, if it was Auburn. And then he just said, because I was 17, he just said, talk to your mum and dad and see what they say. And then I just wish mum and dad had just said, you know what, you're 17, but go for it. And they just said, no, you're too young. Wait
Oh,
one more year.
yeah.
And then I just said, but then, that one more year, I was playing league.
Okay. So
And
that
then
was
it was over from there.
yeah, done and dusted, mate. Red Rover. So
Yeah.
you said you trialled for New Zealand Commonwealth Games team for the 200-meter sprint, and you also trialled for Samoa, and you made the team, but you decided not to compete because of rugby league. So, mate, how hard is it with your heart tugging it, different directions, mate?
Now that I think about it now, Dave, I just wish I could jump in a time machine and go
Yeah,
back and tell the young Ben, you stay and do the Commonwealth Games, mate. You could have gone to the Olympics as well.
that would have been
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. But yeah, pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah, what rugby league was like, I just loved it, because, just the friends that we had. And then,
yeah,
and like, that's when Wellington League was like really tough. When you played against Wainoi, it's like,
yeah,
honestly, it's like New South Wales and Queensland. That's
yeah.
how that's how that rivalry was. And like we'd play Wainui like 4 or 5 times a year. I mean, that team was stacked. You got
Yeah.
like the four Lomax brothers. So you got Johnny Lomax, Arnold, Tony, and David. That's four. And then you got the Partia brothers, and then Jason Gilbert, Yogi Rogers, Barty. Man, it was like, and then you had guys like Una Taufa, and then Earl and Tana were coming through. And
All right.
then, these are back in the days of the Wednesday night games at the Hutt Rec. And I remember Tyrone Pikey was our coach. And then he called me on a Tuesday night. Darren Whiting, the winger, got injured. And he
Yeah.
said, Ben, Sid's starting this week and we're calling you up to play on the wing. And I was thinking, that was one of those just childhood dreams of playing at Upper Hutt.
Yeah.
Like even before you wanted to play for All Blacks and the Kiwis, you wanted to play Prems for Upper Hutt. And then just
Right.
the fact of like, landline, there's no cell phones back then. And I just said, and Dad was like, who was that? I said, Tyrone. He goes, what do you want? Apparently I'm making my debut for the Prems tomorrow night. And then, yeah, bit of a
Amazing.
celebration with Mum and Dad. And then Wednesday night. And then I always remember Tyrone goes, okay, it's going to be a physical game. There's probably going to be some black eyes, a couple of broken noses. And then he
Yeah.
goes, one in, all in. What's the ref going to do? Send you all off.
Those
And
were the
then,
days.
and that's how it was. And like those games are gold, huh?
Yeah. Oh, mate,
Anyone
that's
anyone
hilarious.
could win on the night or the day. But it
Well,
was just good of the fact that we had Air City and Joe playing for us back then. So
I was
that
just
was our
about to
saving
mention them.
grace.
Yeah, I was just going to mention. So 1990, they came up and played for you guys. Pair of brothers, Arseni and Joe Famalo, and that was when you made your debut. So yeah, like what's it like? You've got those two. Sonny Whakaro, Morven, Mike Kuiti. Like what a wicked list of players.
Just legends of Upper Hutt, Wellington, and like league in general. Like, but when those two came, like Joe, him and I ended up became like best friends. So
Yeah.
we used to drive around in his tan-coloured Ford Falcon. Yeah, I think he bought it for like $700 or $800 or something like that. And then as Sydney, I was going, like I played a lot of league over the years, though, like rugby, but Esene's up there. I shit you not, is probably the best prop that I've ever played alongside. And like I still remember my debut for Upper Hutt. I'm only like 19 years old. Me and Sid are sitting next to each other, and like I'm looking across the room, I can see Esene and Joe, Henry
Yeah.
Ferretti looking at me, Sonny, Mark Woods, Morven, Victor Aramoana, Peter Edwards, Mike Widnes. Like the list just goes on, and then like you're in your own little world. So I'm doing like little sprints in the corner, my little stretches. Everyone's doing that, and then I look over at Esene, and he's just sitting there, like not doing it. And then I sort of went over to him, and I was going, "Are you not going to warm up?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't warm up before games." And I was thinking, this is not going to end well. And then when he went out and played the way he did, I was going, "Yep, that's probably why he doesn't warm up. He doesn't need to. He's already on fire." He'd be like 0 to 100, like second hit up. And like even towards like that 1990 year, they like that Upper Hutt Tigers Prem team, the one that Sid and I played in, that's just the best club side him and I have ever played. It was like ex-Kiwis, current Kiwis, future Kiwis, like all rolled into one. And he had Paul Mooks is like 18th man. And like, oh, unlucky, buddy. Unlucky. Yeah. And like my debut, I was like nervous as hell, but I just wanted to go out and prove to those guys that I deserved to be on the stage. And I ended up like my debut scoring 2 tries. And I was like marking David. Then, got man of the match. Was like, how good. And like Esene that whole year, he just played out of his skin, like right up to the grand final, I think. That week of the grand final, because we were playing Wainui, obviously, this is probably like the 5th or 6th time we've played them that year, and it was about 3-3. So like, there were some games we beat them by 2 drop goals. And then, sorry, the Kiwi I haven't mentioned, Dave, is Dave Ewe. So I still remember a game at Whakatiki we played Wainui. We beat them 9-8 in the mud. Wow. 2 drop goals. Dave did 2 drop goals in the mud. 2 drop goals. And then played Wainui. And then Esene ended up in hospital because he had to get some kidney stones removed.
Okay.
Didn't train the whole week. Grand final day, and like the weekend before, I mean, we'd played in the under-19s grand final. We got slaughtered by Wainui. And then I ended up getting sent off and I got suspended, which meant I couldn't play in the Prem's grand final.
Oh, no.
I was gutted. So what they made there was a sprint at halftime, and they picked the fastest player from each club, and that was like the halftime entertainment. Yep. So Jason Edwards was supposed to represent Upper Hutt, and like even the night before, I was gutted, Dave. I was supposed to be playing in my first Premier Grand final as a 19-year-old, and then get to Whakatiki, jump on the bus, and then I walk into the back of the bus and I see Jason Edwards is at the back, and then I've been trying to get a hold of him all night, like no cell phones, there's landlines. So I said to him, bro, I was trying to read you last night. I said, you smell like alcohol. I said, you're supposed to be the sprint today. And he goes, bro, it had sunnies on and it was overcast. And he goes, I think you might have to do the sprint. And I was sober as, and I was like, had my game face. I wanted to play. So I said, you know what? I'll do the sprint. So I ended up doing the sprint for Upper Hutt. I ended up winning it. I won a Bramley jersey, $50 and a bottle of wine. So I gave the bottle of wine to the other runners and I kept the $50 in the jersey. And then Esene, I think he got out, didn't train the whole week, and then that grand final, he just played like a man possessed, like play of the day, Iron Man, all rolled into one. He was just like offloads. I honestly believe in that grand final that year, Esene was the difference.
Yeah, he's a machine, eh? He's a machine.
He certainly is.
Well, speaking of Esene, he flew off to England to take up a contract with Widnes on the back of his unbelievable form. And you got a phone call to go over as well. So how did the Widnes deal come up? How nerve-wracking was it to fly to the other side of the world to go play rugby league in the UK?
It's pretty nerve-wracking, man. I'd only been on a plane to go to Samoa. So, again, this is before cell phones, so the landline's ringing. And then Brandwick came up with this awesome scheme how they took players and then gave them Fletcher's apprenticeships, building apprenticeships. I was thinking, man, they're pretty clever, but I hated building, I couldn't build anything to save my life. So randomly ended up getting Stephen Koenig, so they got Mooks, Willie Ionel, my best mate, and then Sid. Or they gave them apprenticeships at Fletcher's. So, and I was still going to college at the time. So this is 89. So I was going to Henetonga doing my sprinting thing, and then got home, and then, there was phone was ringing, and then I answered. And it was pretty staticky on the phone. I was thinking, oh man, this must be like long distance. And then as soon as the guy spoke, I was going, what the hell? Sounds like a pom. Because English accent. And then all I heard was, g'day mate, my name's Dougie Lawton. It's giving me your number. And then I was thinking, Dougie Lawton, who the heck is that? And then as soon as he mentioned his his name, I was like, holy shit, it's Dougie Lawton, the coach of the Widnes team. And then I was like, I could hear him, but I wasn't really listening. And then all I heard was, go to the British Airways office tomorrow, pick up your ticket, and then we'll see you in a couple of days. And I was like, and then hung up. I was like, man, am I bloody dreaming or something? And then Mum and Dad came home, and I was like, I told them, apparently this English guy where he said he's gone, he's called me and want to go pick up a ticket from British Airways. My old man was like, it's probably one of your mates playing a prank on you. He said, it's probably Willie or Sid. And I was going, yeah, you're probably right, Dad. So Willie lived right next door. So I went and I was pacing up and down his driveway. I was going, man, imagine if this is real. I'm pacing up and down his driveway. And anyway, the Fletcher's van pulls up. And then Mooks, Sid and Willie jump out of the van. And then they're all in their work years. And they're giving me shit, eh? And then straight away, Sid goes, how was school, son? And I was like, F you, F, I don't want to say too many F words because I know my mum's going to be watching this day. Anyway, they come to Willie's house, and then I say to them, Willie, he goes, what do you want? And I said, bro, did you ring me today? And he goes, why the hell would I ring you when we're all at work? And he goes, why is that? And I said, the Widnes coach called me, and I thought it was you playing a prank. And that's what Dad said. He goes, bro, I've been working all day. And then Sid and Mooks go, what the hell did you just say? I said, Dougie Lawton. And then Mooks goes, man, you're an idiot. And I said, what? Dougie Lawton is the coach of the Widnes team, you fool. And I was like, I knew it was for real. And then Sid goes, what did he actually say? And I said, honestly, I couldn't hear anything. And all I heard was Dougie Lawton and then pick up a ticket. So he goes, when? Tomorrow. So those guys rang in sick the next day. So Mooks didn't come around because he was up the coast. So Sid and Willie took the day off at Fletcher's. They put on the sickie and they drove me to British Airways office the next day. And then Sid does a Yui, so we're in Sid's blue Tirana, beautiful car. Awesome. Me, him, and Willie. Awesome. And then we do a Yui, and the car pulls out of the British Airways office. Sid pulls in there, and then they both looked at me and they said, bro, if this is for real, we're going straight to the bottle store after this, and we're going to ring up all the boys, take the rest of the day off, and we're going to go drink at the club. And I was going, I was thinking, nah, stuff like this doesn't happen to people like us. No, this is just bullshit. Anyway, shut the door, and then I walked in, and everyone looked at me and was like, oh, it's like I'm in the wrong place. And the lady was really rude at the counter. She was like, back behind her computer, and she goes, can I help you? And I was like, and I was thinking to myself, how rude. And then I said, this is probably just a prank or, a bit of bullshit, but do you have a seat or a ticket for a Ben Lita going to Manchester and then Heathrow, England? And I was saying, here we go, it's probably crap. And she goes, really? And I said, really? And I was starting to get a bit angry. I was going, man, this lady's being really rude. I want to make a complaint to the manager. And guess what? She was the manager. So she goes, one moment. And then her face just totally changed. And she goes, what did you say your name was again? And I gave her my passport. And she goes, this is probably an error, but I'll try it again. Look at that. There is a seat for you. And I thought, oh my Lord, it's for real. And then she goes to me, this is back in the days when you could smoke on planes, cigarettes. So she goes to me, is it going to be smoking or non-smoking? I don't even smoke cigarettes, David. I went, smoking. And then she printed out the ticket. And then I walked out the door and like Sid and Willie were standing outside the Tirana. And I was waving the ticket as I walked out. And then both of them went, nah, nah. And then straight away we went to the payphone, got all our coins out, started ringing all the boys. Jason Edwards, he's like a welded engineering firm. Ring him up. It's loud as bro, he's going to England tomorrow. He's like, hey. So everyone took the day off and then took us a couple of hours, went to the bottle store and then back to the league club. And then I just jumped on the phone and then I rang up mum and dad. And then I just said, oh, Dad, it's for real. And he goes, what's for real? I said, I'm looking at a ticket for me to go to England tomorrow. And he was like, where are you? Where are you? And I said, I'm at the league club with the boys. He goes, I'm on my way. So Dad ended up like partying with us that night.
Oh, cool.
So instead of drinking in the club, we just put all the grandstand seats in a circle, and then we just had a few drinkings, and then next day I'm flying to England.
One story. That's amazing. How good is that? So like unlikely, but just out of the blue. That's amazing. Oh, mate. So what were the events from landing in the UK? You're off this long ass plane flight. You get to your first training session. You turn up at Widnes. They've got guys like, Martin O'Fire, Andy Courier, John Devereaux, Kurt Sorensen, Joe Griever, and of course the Sini. Was it Mossy Colonna there at the same time?
Yeah, Mossy was there, but he was injured. So it was guys like Mossy and Les Holiday. He played back row for Great Britain. Those two were on the injured list. So if you can imagine Widnes in '91, like without any injuries. Yeah, I don't think anyone could have beat them on their day, because I still remember like my first training because Dougie wanted so what Esseni had told Dougie was, oh, I've got this young kid back home because so the story is Jonathan Devereaux had torn his quad muscle at kicking practice.
Yep.
And I think Andy Courier and Jonathan Devereaux were playing centre because I think at the time Darren Wright was injured. So Darren Wright was the centre for Widnes when they beat Canberra in that World Club Challenge.
Yeah.
So they opened up a spot on the wing, and then I think Esseni mentioned Morv's name, Morven. Okay. And then I think the next name was Victor Aramwana. Like Victor is just an absolute legend of Upper Hutt Rugby League. Highest try score, I think he scored like maybe 700 tries in his career.
Wow.
And like at the time, Vic was probably 29, 30, and I was only 19. So Esseni told Dougie I was 6'3". I'm not even 6'3" with platforms on, Dave. I'm probably maybe just under 6'1". I'm definitely not 6'3", and then it was he's 6'3", he's 100 kg. He was right there, and then Esseni said, he runs 10.9 in the 100, and I actually did do a 10.9 in the 100. So that was my record. I mean, just getting under 11 as a sprinter, that's just that was gold. And then that was how it came about.
Amazing. Good old Esseni, eh? I think you're for that one. That's a good one. All right, so you played for Widnes Reserves, finding your feet, alongside another familiar name I know as Harvey Howard. What was the standard of footy like in comparison to what you were used to back in Upper Hutt?
Man, that reserve team, I don't even want to call them a reserve team. That team for Widnes at the time, me and Harves we were the oldest in the team. We're only like 19, so most of them were like 15, 16 years old. And funnily enough, me and Harvey were on the wings.
Okay, Harvey was on the wings. He ended up playing prop as well.
Yeah, so him and I were on the wings, and I remember it was against Lee. So our Lee, I think they called the Lee, is it Cougars or something? Leigh.
Lee Leopards.
Yeah, it might be, yeah. And like we lost, I got bugger all ball, but I made a few like covering tackles, me and Harvey, and I met with Harvey straight up, and we just clicked straight away. I was going, man, this guy's so cool. And he wasn't like a big head. And like him and I were like, props playing on the wing. So we ended up like being best mates. And then I had one game for the reserve grade, and then they couldn't find cover for JD. So I ended up making my debut for Widnes the following Wednesday at Rochdale.
You did. That's Mark Nixon would have been playing in that match, I believe.
Yeah,
The
Mark
old Kiwi
Nixon
boy,
was
Harry.
playing. I think Mark Nixon was playing standoff. Stu
Yeah,
Galbraith was playing halfback, and
true.
I think Mike Kawiti, I think Mike might have been on the injured list, and my cousin, because my cousin was playing for Northcote at the time, he was best mates with Jason Lowry. They were in the grandstands watching that game. And like
Far out.
when I saw my cousin the following year, he goes, "Man, I didn't even realize it was you." I said, "How could you not? I was the only one with my socks down." And then like played at Rochdale Wednesday night game, and like again, just sitting in the change room, I was like looking around that room, and I was thinking, man, only a couple of weeks ago, I was watching these guys play on like video, watching the VHS tapes. I was sitting
Wow.
right opposite Kurt Sorensen. I was thinking, man, this guy is a bloody legend. And then looked over there, Martin Fire, and then Devereaux, Paul Moriarty, and like Liz Holiday was playing. Joe Grimmer, Joe Grimmer was, I think, one of the first Kiwis to go to Widnes,
Yeah,
like the
thanks.
most underrated
Yeah.
prop back in the, like Mr. Intimidate. He'll just come on and just elbow someone and just change the course of the game. And then Emosi was on the injured list. And then I just remember everyone had their socks because they had, they call them tie-ups. So like little, it's like half shoelaces, they tie up their socks. So I was like, oh, nah, because I always played with my socks down. And then Dougie comes over and he goes, lad, pull your fucking socks up, mate. And I said, oh, Dougie, if you want me to have a real stinker of a game, I'll pull them up. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm a little bit superstitious. I said, I don't know why, because I'm not even religious. But if I pull my socks up, I'm going to have a really bad game. And he goes, okay, leave them down. So I was the only one that played that game with the socks down, and I ended up scoring like 2 tries. And then
Wow.
I don't think Martin scored any. Like it got so boring for Martin that he came off his wing and he set me up for my second try. I think I spun
Wow.
off Stu Galbraith in the corner and then
Yeah.
just did my outrageous dive in the corner. So it's just to score a double. And I was like, I just remember after the game thinking, oh, straight away, Dale was saying, man, I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm already counting my chickens. I was just thinking, I've made it. And then I got interviewed by Open Rugby. I think it's the English equivalent of Rugby League Week. Ended up getting interviewed by them.
Wicked. Wicked.
Mm.
So at the end of that first game, like you say, you're sort of maybe counting your chickens, and then tragedy struck in your second game against Wakefield. Torn hamstring, putting it into what would have been an amazing year for you. So, just how dark of a place did you go to when you realised the dream potentially is over?
Yeah, it was pretty dark. I just remember this was my first home game. And like anyone that knows Essenia knows, like when you come through the tunnel onto the field, all you hear is like just the crowd
Yeah.
rat like, yeah. And I was thinking, man, this is crazy. And like, man, this is my first home game. And then I think and then Adrian Shelford was playing for Wakefield Trinity at the time. I was going, an Upper Hutt legend. I only lasted, I think it was just maybe a quarter, but then I set up a couple of tries and I was thinking, just remember just being like, almost like blank when I came off. I was going, oh man, that last week I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
This week,
Very
nah,
much
not
so.
so good. Yeah, and the thing is, I hadn't signed a contract, so I was like, oh no. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I was so gutted, eh? And then I just went into a really dark place for a long time. It didn't come out for ages, but yeah, I was pretty gutted because that Widnes team, Sharks, and like it was probably more of a kick in the guts for me to go watch games, knowing that I should have been on that field playing
Yeah.
alongside those legends.
Yeah.
Because we ended up like Challenge Cup. I think we ended up playing St Helens. Funnily enough, we had to play St Helens at Central Park in Wigan. And like when
Yeah.
you look at that St Helens team, Sharks, Tia Ropati, Shane Cooper, who else is like Mark Elia, who else? Who else was playing? And then George Mann was like,
Oh
and
man.
then we're playing them in the semis. And then that week, it's probably the 5th or 6th week, but my hammy was getting better.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh man, and then Dougie and management approached me that week of the semi-final and said, "Are you going to be ready?" And I said, "Oh, I think so." So Les Holiday and I went to do a fitness test.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day of the semi-final.
Right.
So and it was just simple case of like doing sprints. So
Yeah.
it was just a sprint from the 22 to the goal line,
Okay.
halfway, the other 22, and then goal line to goal line.
Right.
So I was thinking, oh man, and then the deal was if we beat St Helens and play Wigan at in the Challenge Cup final, they're going to fly my whole family over to watch at Wembley, and then they
Yeah.
were offering me £10,000 if we won at Wembley. That was like
Yeah.
30K back in those
Yeah,
days.
I know. That's good back then.
So poor me and Les were lining up in the 22, and handshake, and I gave each other a hug, and I was thinking, man, if we play and we beat St Helens, I think we can beat Wigan next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And then Emosi was starting to come right, and then Essene was playing injury free almost that whole season, and then come the semis, I think he did his shoulder in the quarters. So
Okay.
when we came up against St Helens, he had a bit of a niggly shoulder, and like that sprint, so 22 halfway, me and Les are like, yeah, we're in, and then we would go to the other 22 to the goal line, and then I think it was Les's groin. So
Yeah.
he pulled out of that. So that was him gone. And
Oh,
then
he's out.
I had to finish the rest of the fitness test by myself. So it was like goal line. And then I was going to the far posts. And then Dougie says, "Oh, I don't want you to jog that last one. I want you to give it 100% sprint." And
Yeah.
then that's pretty much what I just pretty much did 3/4 pace to the 50. And then on the way to the 50 to the goal line, I decided to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, got to the 22, I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to be playing
Yeah.
against St Helens. And then, who knows, we might play the Challenge Cup next week against Wigan. And then just before we got to the goal line, Hammy just tore it again.
You're
And
kidding.
then absolutely
Kidding.
gutted. I just remember falling over the goal line and I actually started crying. That's
I
how
don't
bad
blame
it
you.
was. Like, and no one was near me. And like the trainers there running over, I said, "Stay away, stay." I was like, that's how gutted I was. And then, yeah, didn't play. And then I ended up in the crowd. And then every player that came out, so JD Jiffy was playing fullback because I think
Yeah.
Alan Tate was injured. So JD played full, and then everyone that rang out, the crowd would sing their name. So Jiffy came out first, and then I was in the middle of the crowd, and then everyone would be like, "Hey, Johnny, Johnny, Johnny,
Yeah.
Johnny, Johnny, Johnny Davies," and start clapping, and then Martin would be the next one. And then when they
Yeah.
got to number 5, Dave, I just remember like, man, they should be calling my name. I should be on that
Mate.
field. I was so gutted. I just said to one of the supporters, "Grab me that bottle, give me that here." And then, you could just see that Essene wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
And then, man, I'm pretty sure it was Mike McLennan was the St Helens coach, and
Okay.
he did an absolute masterstroke the week of. So I think he ended up putting George Mann in the centres
Yeah.
to mark Andy Courier,
Okay.
and it was just one-way traffic after that. It was like poor Andy just got used as a speed bump pretty much. I think he set up like 3 tries, and you could see that Essene just couldn't do much. And like
Right.
Essene was that was the key to us making the grand final. So we ended up losing it. So bit of a bummer night. We all ended up back at Kurt's at top of the town,
Yeah.
drowning our sorrows.
I bet you did. I bet you did, mate. So, what was the journey after that? Like, did they ask to keep you around, or were you told go back home to New Zealand? Like, what did they do with you?
It was pretty hard after that, David. Like, just seeing him out, I've just blown it. Like one, didn't make it to the grand final. We didn't win. 2, I haven't signed a contract, and like I was too scared to tell mum and dad. I was like, oh man, what do I tell my parents? Because I'm coming back with nothing. I'm coming back with torn hamstrings.
And an experience.
So then, just ended up in like La La Land for like years and years. It wasn't
Yeah.
like till because like back then as a sprinter, I never went to the gym. So
Okay.
then, fast forward 91, 92, I'm getting into like going to the gym and doing weights. I was
Right.
thinking, man, I wish I discovered weight training before I was a sprinter because,
Right.
one, I would have been a lot faster. Two, I would have been a lot stronger. And three, my career would have been a lot longer. I would have gone on,
Yeah.
but I was thinking, oh, well, it's too late to complain now. And then end up going back to league, and then that's when my end up in the back row, and then ended up playing prop. So I went
Yep.
back to Upper Hutt, and then the coach now was James Pike here, so it was Tyrone's younger brother. And then I
Okay.
remember I was stretching, getting ready to go on. This is back in the days of the Madison headgear. Everyone's trying to be like Steve Renoff. The
Yeah.
Madison
Yep.
headgear. Yeah. I won't let anyone wear my headgear. I'm stretching up, and I go, "Oh, James, what wing do you want me to jump on?" He goes, "Actually, can you jump in at prop?" And I remember going, "What the hell do I know about playing prop?" And he was like, "Ben, just run hard like you normally do, hold the ball, and make your tackles." And I was like, that sounds pretty easy. And then my introduction to prop is I'm marking Arnold and Johnny Lomax. So my first scrum that I go to, I get a headbutt from Arnold.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Madison headgear, but his Madison headgear is just a bit bigger than mine. And I remember I said to him, "Where do you want me to put my head?" And he goes, "Just put it right there." And then we went to pack the scrum, I went to put my head in. He headbutted me on purpose. And then he goes to me, "Welcome to the front row." I was going, "Oh, yeah." And I was like seeing stars, like, "Oh, so this is how it's going to be, eh? I can't wait to get the first hit up because I'm running right straight towards you, buddy." And then, yeah. And then I didn't look back. I was thinking, I think like playing on the wing or in the backs, you don't appreciate the work that the forwards do.
Yeah.
Because without them going forward and doing all that, the donkey work or the hard
All that crap
yards,
work in the middle.
we don't score tries. If we're not going
No.
forward, we're going backwards. And then
Yeah.
I was thinking, man, and then I ended up falling in love with rugby league again, but now I was the front row. And then this was like 92, and then 93 was the Kiwi tour to Great Britain and France. And
Yes.
then, it was announced that Howie Tamati was going to be the coach. And because he was the Wellington coach. If you were playing footy in Wellington at the time, he was watching you every week. So it was in your best interest to go out there and just perform. So
Yep.
then I remember that preseason training, that was probably because, honestly, Dave, like even when I played on the wing, I'm like the worst trainer in the world. I hate that shit, man. Like, road runs are like I'm the fastest in the team, youngest, and I'm the fittest in the team. I'm at the back with the props. That's how bad.
Love
Even
road runs.
Esseni and Joe were beating me in the road runs. That's how bad it was.
That
And
was
then
great.
when I discovered weight training, I also discovered like, other training as well. Like, to play in the front row, second row, you got to be fit, man, because
Yeah.
you want to be doing minimum 20 hit ups, 20 tackles. Man,
Yeah.
you got to be fit to be out there and doing that. And then I think that preseason, like not coming into 93, first game, I'm marking Robert Piva.
All
And
right.
Sid had gone to Porirua. So as you can
Yep.
imagine, we want to go out there and kill that bastard. Like, you effing traitor. I'm gonna take your effing head off. And then as a prop, I played 80 minutes and then I scored the winning try. And then Howie came
Yes.
and saw me after the game and he was like, "Ben, what the hell are you doing in the front row?" He goes, "Keep it up." And I was going, "Man, I think I've got a shot." Because that if you were playing in Wellington that year, you wanted to make the tour at the end of the year. That
Yeah.
was that was the end goal, and then ended up there was a scout at the Pacific Cup in '92, so they rang
Okay.
me in '93 and said, "Oh, we want to offer you a contract." They said, "Oh, it's country rugby league."
Yeah.
It's and I was thinking, man, I should stay back because I think I've got a good shot at making the Kiwis at the end of the year. But then,
Okay.
I decided, oh, well, what? I want to go over there now. I don't want to wait.
Yep.
Yeah. So ended up taking that up. So I ended up going over to Woolgoolga in Australia. So not far
Yep.
from Coffsarter. Yeah. Went over there and played prop. Yeah.
Okay. So what opportunities came from that? Was that when you trialed with a few of the ARL sides back then, or New South Wales Rugby League teams. Did you have a shot with, I think, was it Cronulla and North Sydney and Dragons off the top of my head?
Yeah, so the coach for Woolgoolga, so we were called the Woolgoolga Seahorses, and it was
Right.
Cronulla colours. It was the Sharks
Okay.
colours. Yeah, and we played in Group Two. So Woolgoolga, we're like in the mid north coast of Australia, so a
Yeah.
couple of hours from Brizzy, and then had my cousin come over as well, and one of the boys from Auckland, because they wanted to have a look at three of the Tokelau boys. So the
Okay.
Pacific Cup the year before, I ended up playing for Tokelau Islands,
That's right.
and then rang up my cousin and said, "Oh, do you want to come to Oz?" And then rang up one of the boys in Auckland and said, "Oh, we need one more." So is that us? So we went up over there, and then we're at Sydney Airport, like, oh, so where's Google from here? And said, oh, it's about a 12-hour bus ride. And said, 12 hours? What the hell? And like my cousin, Sully Moore, so I was sitting next to him, and like Sully is like 6'4", probably like 160, 170 kg. So he was pretty
Wow.
much taking up his seat and half of mine. I
Yeah.
might as well just sit in the aisle. And 12 hours of him snoring. And then we get up to Google, and I was thinking, when we got there, when we got there, I was thinking, I think I made the wrong move. I should have just stayed back in Wellington. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm over here now. And then we
Yeah.
didn't even have anywhere to stay. So we ended up putting us in a hotel for a couple of days, and then found us a flat, and then everyone chipped in and like donated like um, chairs and tables and a couch
Yeah.
and yeah, microwave, a couple
Unreal.
of beds. Yeah, and then started with Whoopi, and then at the time was like, my fitness was, and they were like, oh, what position you play? And I was thinking, oh, prop. And like,
Yeah.
when I said that, I said it with pride. I was going,
Yeah.
yeah, I am a prop now. And then
Yeah.
we just went on this run. Yeah, because I think before I got there, they'd lost about 3 or 4 in a row.
Okay.
And the year before, they played against Nimbucca Heads in the grand
Yeah.
final. So that ended up being my first game. Yeah, and we
Okay.
killed them. And I ended up scoring 2 tries and set up, I think, 3. So I was
Nice.
like taking a hit up, stepping the prop, running around the centre, setting up the winger. And they're
Unreal.
like, are you sure you play prop? And I said, well, apparently. Yeah, and then we just went on, I think 9, 10 games in a row. We ended up making it right up. We ended up getting knocked out in the semis, but man, we played teams like Kempsey, so where GI was born.
Wow. Yeah.
GI, the Queenslander, is really
Yeah.
a New South Welshman. Yeah, him.
That's the one. That's the one.
So
Yeah.
like, because Kempsey had 2 teams back in those days. It was like the Kempsey Warriors, and they were like all Aboriginal, and then they had the Kempsey Dragons.
Yeah.
No Aboriginals, like 2 different teams. And like when you play against the Warriors, it's like when you beat them, man, we had to shield like the change room doors because they're like throwing rocks at the windows of it. And like
All
we
right.
had to get police escort onto the bus, and like the locals end up they're throwing rocks at the bus. We were like,
All right.
man, we never want to come back here. And then we end up getting knocked out of the semis, but by the end of the season, there was a few scouts that had come up to watch me play. So
Okay.
Mick got me a trial with Cronulla Sharks. Our reserve grade coach, he'd come from the North Sydney Bears, so they came and watched one of my games.
Yeah.
And then our fullback was Kurt Raper. So Kurt he's the older brother of Aaron. So son of the great Johnny. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
had a trial with the Dragons. I remember one time because me and Kurt we ended up being best mates.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember walking to the shop and I saw him and his pregnant wife unloading furniture from their truck, and I just said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, you're that new guy from New Zealand, eh?" I said, "Yeah." I said, how come you're getting your pregnant wife to do all the lifting? And he goes, I said, where's all the boys? He said, oh, they've gone out fishing and diving. I said, tell you what, I was going to go to the shop, but I'll give you a hand. and then I'll go to the shop, and then I end up being there the whole day. So me and Kurt were sitting in the garage having a Castlemate 4X, and his lovely wife was like, "Oh, thank you, Ben. You saved our bacon." I said, I wasn't going to let you do all the heavy lifting. This lazy dude. Me and Kurt end up being best mates, and then we're just sitting there, and he cracks out a cigar. I don't even smoke cigars, and Kurt goes, "Oh, do you want one?" I said, "Yeah, bro, why not?" And
Why
then
not?
I said, "Oh," and then we just started talking footy, and he was like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, from Upper Hutt in Wellington." He goes, "Where the hell is that?" And I had to explain it to him, and I said, "Oh, where are you from?" And then I said, "What's your surname?" And as soon as he said Raper, I was like, and I said to him as a joke, "Oh, what an unfortunate surname." And then he started cracking up. He goes, "You know what, Ben? I've never ever heard anyone say that to me because my dad's a legend." I said, "Kurt, if you know anything about rugby league, you know who your dad is." And then we ended up being like best mates. And then he was like, "Oh," and then because Kurt was playing fullback, and then as the season went on, I was playing probably the best footy that I've ever played. I was injury free. I was the highest try scorer at prop, playing every game. And then, there was a few scouts there. And then Johnny rang Kurt, and Kurt said, "Oh, the old man's coming up." And I said, "No way." And then I remember that Saturday, Friday night, I was so nervous. It was almost like a trial for me. I was trialing for a Winfield Cup team. The great Johnny Ravens, he's coming here to watch me play. And then that just happened. I just remember that morning, I just woke up, and this was back when Ben, I used to do my positive affirmations. I was going, "Today's going to be your day, son." I was like, next week you're going to be playing for the St. George Dragons. That's what I said to myself. And then I ended up going out and scoring a hat trick. And then we're having a beer with Johnny, me, him, and Kurt after the game. And then Johnny just said, "Oh, Ben, he goes to me, I've never ever seen a prop with your speed. With your size and speed." He goes, "Have you always played prop?" I said, "I used to play on the wing." And he goes, "I thought so." He goes, "Mate, you were scoring all the bloody tries out there." And then he goes, "Oh, I've got a trial for you at St. George." And then the manager for the reserve grade team, we used to call him, his nickname was GC, Gold Coast. And he goes, "Oh, Ben, this is where they record the Seagulls." He goes, "Oh, the GC Seagulls want to have a look here." And I said, "GC, I've got the Bears, the Sharks, and the Dragons knocking on the door. I don't think I need to be talking to any Seagulls." And then came back home, and then, I ended up not going back, Yeah, just a messy relationship breakup. And then I ended up, when I went back, I ended up in WA playing
So,
with Zealand at Rockingham.
okay. So did you have a stint over in the UK for Workington Town as well?
Yeah, it was the year after. So when I came back from Widnes,
Yeah.
and then I went through my contractual negotiations with Upper Hutt, and then they
Okay.
had new management. I'm not going to mention the name, but the new management, they just said, "Oh, okay, the best we can come up with, Ben, because Mike Kawiti, Morven Edwards, Sid Edu, Sonny Whakato," just started rattling off all their names.
Yeah.
They've pretty much taken up the salary cap. So
Okay.
what we've got for you is $50 a game, and here's where you sign. And I said, and my dad was there at the time, and then my dad goes, "Oh, I beg your pardon?" I said, "Oh, $50." And then dad was like, "Do you know where my son has just come back from? You're offering $50." He goes, "That's a little bit disrespectful." And then my dad said, "Oh, negotiations are over." So he jumped in the taxi, and then dad said, "Oh, we'll go talk to Wainui." And then I just said to dad, "Stop the car." And then he pulled up. He goes, "Are you okay?" And I went, "Dad, any team but Wainui." So then, it ended up at Randwick.
Far out, far out. So also moving forward, you came back home, like you said, from Australia. You played in the Lion Red Cup, the Hutt Valley Firehawks, I believe. How awesome was it to play in this brand new, semi-professional competition in New Zealand?
It was pretty weird at first, though, because I really go to my first training. This is '94, and we used to
Yeah.
train over at Fraser Park. And then because I'd come back from Oz, the guys had played I think 5 or 6 games together. So you walk into this is the Hutt Valley Firehawks changing room. You walk in, the Wainui boys are in a corner, The Rugby boys are in the other corner. The Panthers are in this corner, and the Tigers are in. So no one's mingling, and all the Upper Hutt boys are in this corner. So no one's talking to anyone. And I remember thinking to myself, no wonder you guys have lost 5 games in a row. You're not gelling as a team.
Yeah.
So then I just thought, I think before I leave here, this is going to be my mission, is to make sure we all play as a team. So then I think Thursday night training, we all went out to try and, catch up. And then I just said to everyone, don't you think it's time we all got on? Because we're not playing for Upper Hutt. We're not playing for Randwick or Petone or Wainui. This is a Hutt Valley team. And the sooner we realise that, the sooner we can start playing some bloody footy. And then after that, we started putting together some good games. And then that comp, oh man, like when you played a team like Counties Manukau, like Hotrell Cassini, I was like, holy hell. And then Paul Cassini, his brother, was playing. I was going, damn, this team. So, but I think it just, but the thing is, like, it was awesome to play in the Library Cup, but you just knew that it weakened local footy. Yeah. So all the club sides pretty much, all the good players had gone to the Hutt Valley. So it was like Hutt Valley and the rest that either didn't want to play for the Hutt Valley ended up playing for the Wellington Dukes. So there were 2 teams. Okay. But bloody good comp, but just Wellington Dukes and us, we just probably didn't fulfill our full potential. Yeah, I don't even think we made it to semis.
Oh, right. Now, you also touched on the fact that it weakened local comps. Do you think that was kind of where that was the line where New Zealand Provincial Rugby League's just slowly gone downhill ever since? Rugby League went professional pretty much in New Zealand and Australia with the Warriors coming in. Obviously, Super League made Rugby League professional in Australia. It must hurt when, obviously you're still very involved with the Tigers, but you see there's no Kiwis running around in local comps anymore. It's just a very different picture.
Because I really we're all young fellas, you're just young and you're talking shit. What are we going to do when we're an adult? We're like 18, 19. We are adults. what are we going to do? We're like 20, 21. And we're like, you're going to be a professional footy player for 15, 20 years, really naive thinking.
Yeah.
But not the case.
No.
And then just some of the guys that just went on, the guys like Sid and Mooks, just, they just went on to have successful careers. And the rest of us just got to get on with life.
Pretty much. So you took a break from rugby league due to your father having health problems. So that was time for you to hang up the boots for a few years. So was that a tough time for you, seeing your father go through such a tough battle?
Yeah, Dad was always my number one. He was like my number one coach and my number one enemy at the same time.
Yeah.
we had that love. I loved it, but just the trainings he used to make me do, go to the local park at about 11:30 at night and do 15, 20 laps of the field in the dark.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 94, and then Dad just said to us, I've been diagnosed with cancer. It was a while ago, but I didn't really want to tell anyone. And then Dad was like, I think I want to, move back to Auckland, because he was getting ready for his passing. So Dad was like, I want to go back to Auckland because I want to be buried next to grandparents. And then, I could just see when Dad started getting sick, and I was like, and I was probably around 27, 20 hours thinking, I think I might have to hang up my boots for a little bit and start, because I wasn't even working.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still kind of semi-professional, getting some money and play footy, but then it wasn't. I was thinking, man, I think I might have to choose a career, other than rugby league. Yeah, and I remember thinking, man, I wish I should have tried. I should have tried at school, academic-wise, because I had no certs and that to back up on. So I ended up just funny enough, registering with a temp company. So I was doing various temp jobs, and then ended up getting a butte, like I was telling you earlier. I was a forklift driver at Farmers, and then I just loved it.
Yeah, I love forklifts, mate. That's me.
And then Dad passed, and then it just wasn't the same. As a family unit, it's everyone was missing the old man, and then one by one, my siblings started moving back. This is when we were in Auckland, so they started moving back to Wellington, and I remember at the time I was the only one that was in Auckland, because I've got 6 siblings, and even mum was there. And then I came back for Christmas and New Year's, and hung out with my family, and like just the banter that we have as a family. It's like good food, good company, a few drinks, and just heaps of laughter. And I was thinking to myself, man, I miss this. So I ended up going back to Auckland, handed my notice, and then moved back here. Fell in love, and then family, and then thinking, man, I was thinking, I want to get back in some capacity. I want to get back into rugby league, but I don't know where I fit in the jigsaw. And then I remember when I moved back, I had the blinkers on because I was trying to transition from like being a semi-professional rugby league player to a normal person. Man, I got to work from. It's not 9 to 5, it's like 7 to 5. Sometimes and I did heaps of like security jobs, and I remember I worked at Big Ben Pies at one stage.
Big Ben Pies.
And then ended up back here, and then I was just hearing like whispers that the Tigers were struggling, and then I should get involved at the end. But I just put the blinkers on, and then I think it was just one. I was having a conversation with a few of the boys, and they're like, "Yeah, bro, the club's really struggling." And I was like, well, why are you guys talking about it? Why don't you just do something about it? They said, oh, that's why we're talking to you. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, oh, because we know what you're like and you know what we're like. And I said, what the hell is that supposed to mean? They said, oh, I think it's about time you stepped up and jumped on the committee. And I was like, no way. And I was thinking, and do what? I was like, man, the only thing I enjoyed about, the club was like playing. And like it was because it was a family environment, like all the boys was like it just wasn't the same. And then boys were ringing me, like I think it was Sunday morning. There was an AGM, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not going." And they were like, "You better be there, man, because we're all going to be there. So you better be there." And I was like, I finally gave in, and I don't know why, but I don't know. I think I was a bit nervous to go back to the club. I think nervous in the fact I was thinking, maybe the club really is in the shit. So even when it came to things like what I was going to wear to go, I don't even know. So I ended up going in my Tom Brady Pats shirt. I had a Boston cap on, and then I remember going to the club and I was thinking, man, the first thing that came to mind was, man, it smells in here. But I knew it was the carpet from back in the days because there was all that years of alcohol in the carpet. And I was thinking, it's dark, it smells. And I was like, man, this club, honestly, this is what I thought, Dave. It looks like shit. And then when I sat down, and then who happens to sit opposite me? It's Kevin Tamati. I was going, holy shnikes, if KT's down from the Hawke's Bay, the club really is in the red. And then when the committee started talking, I was like, yep, they're in the crap, all right. And I remember instructions from the missus. She was like, Bub, I don't mind you being on the committee, but you better not come back as the president or the chairman. Then I came home. It was like really good to see everyone because a lot of the boys, because they knew that the club was struggling like financially. We had no teams back then, and like we owed everyone, all the debtors were at the door. They're all knocking at the door. And then came home, and the missus was like, oh, you're pretty quiet. She goes, you're the bloody president, are you? I went, no, I'm the chairman.
Oh my God. So what's the state of the club now? Like I've seen so much work you've done, on all the socials and getting recruitment drives and kids coming in and the whole fundraisers, the works, and what's the state of the club now? Just to finish off, how Upper Hutt going these days?
State of club's looking pretty good, eh, Dave? Like this has probably been our best year to date. Just the fact that we've got a senior reserves who are playing in the grand final this Saturday. And we've got a women's team this year, and then like from under sixes up to under 16s.
Yeah.
So lots of like middies, mods, and juniors. Financially, we're pretty good. We've been out of the red for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. And a lot of the old bills, they were outstanding.
Yeah.
Financially, we're looking good. We're just looking to sublease the club to someone, just a bit of extra income coming in.
Yep.
So we're in talks with the local sports groups. Yeah.
Brilliant, man. That's so awesome, mate. That's bloody fantastic. Now, before I let you go, I just want to ask you a couple of quick questions that I ask everyone. Um, you know, who do you think's going to win the NRL this year? And you're not allowed to say the Roosters.
As much as I want to say the Roosters, I think last weekend was probably, that was D-Day for us. I was thinking if we beat the Storm, which we haven't beaten them since, man, I think you're the stats guy, Dave. Was it 2018 or 2019? I was
It's
thinking
been
if
a
we
while,
beat the
mate.
Storm, if we beat them, we might have a shot. But then when we lost it, I was thinking, oh, and the fact that Robbo keeps like moving around Sanders, Smith, Savala, it's good that Sam Walker's back. I think Raiders.
Mate,
That's my
I,
pick.
I think it's going to be a Raiders Bulldogs final. I could see that happening. Yeah,
You know, the
something
funny thing
different.
is, Dave, back in like, even though I'm Roosters crazy, my favorite team was that '94 Raiders team. That
They
team.
were amazing, mate.
Yeah,
What a
yeah.
team. What a team. Right, non-league related, man. What's your favorite TV show or movie?
Favorite movie? Braveheart.
Yeah, that's a
And you know
classic.
what I started watching on Netflix recently?
What's that?
Peaky Blinders.
Oh, mate, that is a top shelf show. That is so good. That is so
I'm
good.
already up to season 3. Man, I should have started watching it years ago.
I know. It took me a while to get into it. Like the first episode, I was like, oh yeah, it's all right. But then by
Yeah,
season two, couldn't put it down. It was so good.
yeah. And the other funny one, uh, an old workmate, we started watching that Baby Reindeer, some
Yeah.
crazy shit in that, and then I started nicknaming him Donny, and then he started calling me Martha. And like, we were in public, and I go, "Hey, Donny," and then he go, "What's up, Martha?" Everyone look at us, going, "Man, these guys are weird, huh?"
Right, man. This last question. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be for Ben Lear?
Chop suey,
Chop suey. I've never had that answer. That's a
without a
great one.
shadow of a doubt. Chop suey.
Brilliant, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. It's been awesome to get more of an insight into some local stuff and your trip over to Widnes. And I love that jersey behind you, absolutely beautiful. Just thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been great to meet you finally.
Privilege and honor. Appreciate it, DC, and just want to wish our senior reserves and our under 14s all the best for their grand finals this Saturday.
Awesome, bro. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I've been your host, Dave. This has been the incredible Ben Lear. We've been back in the day, and we'll see you next time for kickoff.
Full time.